Hi guys, I want to talk to you guys today about responsible four-wheel drive ownership. If you're going to drive a four-wheel drive, if you want to buy a four-wheel drive just for looks, to impress your friends, to impress other people by saying, hey look, that guy's got a four-wheel drive, it's awesome, he's cool or she's cool, then go ahead and buy yourself a four-wheel drive just for that reason. That's called a mall crawler, somebody who doesn't actually use their four-wheel drive for the four-wheel drive capability or know how to use it properly. Now, I used to have a four-wheel drive off-road club, and in my four-wheel drive off-road club, we had a motto, leave no one behind, and we would call the other members that were available to come out and help us. That's what we did. We didn't leave anyone behind. If someone said, can you help me, and you were actually available to help them, we would drive to where they were to help them, of course locally, right? But I was at the beach this last week. I encountered a vehicle that was stuck all the way down to the bumper. It was a minivan, front wheel drive, and the axles were stuck deep into the soft sand, and the bumper was actually starting to plow into the sand. It was so deep. There's no way it could be pulled out unless you had a four-wheel drive vehicle and somebody who knew how to operate that four-wheel drive vehicle, and more importantly, had recovery gear to pull that vehicle out, or you paid someone with a winch or a backhoe to come pull you out, $150, $200, or maybe even more, because where I was at was in a very remote area of this beach, and it's clearly marked. There are signs that says do not enter this area unless you have a four-wheel drive vehicle, and if you do, you enter at your own risk. Well, apparently not everybody takes that to heart. Some people go out there with two-wheel drives, and I've seen them, and lots of times they get lucky because the sand has been packed, because the water, the waves has rolled over the sand and packed the sand. But that's not always the case. Sometimes it's very loose sand, and when I say very loose sand, take a look at this. That's what I mean by very loose sand. See how deep those ruts are, and that's not even the worst of it. I've seen it much deeper. I've driven through the sand where my skid plate actually has to kick the sand out of the way as I'm plowing through it. And I can still make it because I'm an experienced four-wheel drive vehicle operator. But let me go over some recovery gear that I think you should know. It's just basic recovery gear, but it is something that is necessary. If you're going to drive a four-wheel drive vehicle, it's necessary for you to have it for your purposes to recover your own vehicle out. And if you can't recover your own vehicle out, it's good if someone driving by has a four-wheel drive vehicle and they don't have recovery gear, they can help you pull your vehicle out, or you can in turn help pull somebody else out, whether they're two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. And I've pulled a lot of four-wheel drive vehicles out of the sand because they didn't know how to drive it as well as they thought they did, or they didn't have recovery gear. And it's usually the first thing. But let me give you a few tips. Okay, first and foremost, you need to have a recovery strap. No, not a tow strap, a recovery strap. So a recovery strap is definitely a must. So what happened was this week I was driving, my wife and I were driving along this beach, and we took our little puppy to go out there and play in the water. And we were driving back one evening. We stayed out there a couple of days. We're driving back one evening. We saw a vehicle that was a minivan, and it was stuck completely down into the sand. He had dug extra deep ruts with his front tires because it's a front wheel drive, and it's only a two-wheel drive. He went into four-wheel drive territory thinking he could deal with it, and he got stuck quite deep. Now, that's again not uncommon. So I happened to drive by, and I saw this, and I saw several people trying to push this vehicle out, and I asked them if they needed help. They said, sure. Do you have a tow strap? No, I don't have a tow strap, but I knew what they meant. I have a recovery strap. So with my recovery strap, I decided, yeah, I'll go ahead and help pull them out. So what I did was I pulled to the back of their vehicle, which actually had a tow point on it, and it had a tow ball, which was meant to tow a trailer, obviously, right? But that's their only recovery point. that brings me to this next point. Don't go out there to a four-wheel drive territory. Doesn't matter if you have a four-wheel drive or two-wheel drive. Don't go out there unless you have recovery points on your vehicle. That's a must. If you go out there without recovery points, you're just begging to get into trouble. But they did. And they happen to have one recovery point. Well, I pulled the back of my vehicle to the back of their vehicle so I can hook up to my recovery point, which I have on purpose, to their recovery point. This right here is how I hooked it up to my 2-inch receiver. So I hooked up the tow strap to my 2-inch receiver through the D-ring, which is a little silver ring there, a gray ring you see, and I hooked it up to their ball for towing trailers or what have you, and I slowly pulled them out. Now, what you need to understand is a recovery strap is never meant to jerk anything. You don't jerk things with the recovery strap. There's a snatch strap. It's called a snatch strap. It's like a bungee cord. It's meant for you to pull and jerk things out little by little. As you pull and it begins to stretch, because it's like a bungee strap, it builds up kinetic energy and helps pull even stronger. But if you don't have that, if you have a recovery strap, which most people purchase, then you keep the constant pressure. You pull forward a little bit till you have constant pressure, and then you start giving it the gas and the vehicle starts to come out slowly. Don't confuse this with a tow chain, which you see here, because there's no such thing as a tow chain. I don't care what it says on the internet. I don't care who tells you it's called a tow chain. No such thing as a tow chain. Chains are used for strapping stuff down to a flatbed vehicle there, and that would be in tow. Chains are also used for an additional security if you're towing a trailer to your ball hitch. They're meant to hook onto the sides of your bumper. In case your tow hitch fails, it falls, you won't lose your trailer. Your chain will hold your trailer for the 20 or 30 seconds till you can pull off to the side. But it's not meant to tow another vehicle, and it sure as heck is not meant to recover another vehicle. I've seen people damage their back of the windows when that tow chain snaps and that kinetic energy sends that missile flying through your back window. I've not seen anybody die, but it's a good possibility that your head will turn into a canoe when that chain slaps through the back of your head. Don't do that. Don't ever use a tow chain to pull a vehicle out of a rut that it's stuck into. It is not a recovery chain. Try not to use it. Please, don't die doing something stupid like that. Okay, which brings me to my next one. If you notice what I have here, this is where I hooked up my receiver, my D-ring to the receiver on the back of my vehicle. So when I hooked up this D-ring to the back of my vehicle, I hooked up the tow strap. I bring the two vehicles into where the strap is nice and taut and firm. I put it in 4 low. You can also do this in 4 high. But I put my vehicle in 4 low to give it extra torque, which, and as an auto mechanic, I understand this pretty well. But what happens is if you put it in 4 low, the gear ratio drops. Therefore, your RPMs have to go much higher in order to get those tires to spin. As they go much higher, you get more torque. More torque means more pulling power. More pulling power means easier to recover that vehicle. So that's what I did. I put it in 4 low and I pulled that vehicle out of that rut. It didn't take much. But I also had additional help because, again, I'm prepared. I used these, which are called recovery points or recovery pads or recovery tracks or whatever the manufacturer wants to call it. These helped me to pull out that front vehicle. I put these underneath the front tires so the man can put it in reverse. As I pulled him out and gave him a little bit of extra traction, his tires could get on them, grip it, and drive himself out of the holes as I was giving him the extra pulling power. When you buy a recovery strap or a snatch strap or even a D-ring, you want to get something that's at least 30,000 pound rating or higher. D-rings, they usually rate them a little bit differently. They usually rate them about 9,000 pounds, give or take, per D-ring. But You want to get a tow strap or any kind of strap, whether it be Snatch Strap or whatever you're going to get, around 30,000 pounds or higher rating. The price points don't matter. You don't have to buy the highest quality one. You don't have to buy a worn. I'm going to put down in here in my description, I'm going to put down some suggestions. Most of the stuff that I'm going to put down here I actually already own. So just kind of look at my suggestions on what to purchase, and trust me, they're going to be needed when at some point when you go out there four-wheeling. If you use your four-wheel, you're going to use them at some point, whether it be to recover yourself or to recover a stranger who's stuck. Now, I'm not one to drive by a stranger and just watch them get stuck and just keep on moving, or watch them stuck and keep on moving. And I'm also not one to charge a stranger to pull them out. Give me $50 and I'll pull your vehicle out. That's not who I am. I know several people who are like that. I'm not that kind of person. I will do it for free. I will help you out because, well, that's what I want. I want you to help me out if I ever get stuck. Don't charge me $50 to say I'll save your life and help you and your family get out of here. That's not the kind of person you need to be, and that's not the kind of person I am. So when you're gonna help somebody, you have to have the proper gear. It doesn't hurt to have leather gloves. It doesn't hurt to have a little shovel. And it doesn't hurt to have the rest of this gear that I'm going to put down here in the description for you. Don't ignore warning signs. If you have a two-wheel drive vehicle, don't go into four-wheel drive territory. Now, the main reason why I decided to post this up for you to see today is when I was out there this last week, two four-wheel drive vehicles, a Toyota Tacoma and a Ford F-150 drove right by me. Those vehicles stopped to help this man. That was great. Neither one of those vehicles had recovery gear. Neither one of those vehicles could help this man. Now, it's a little bit surprising to see two vehicles not have recovery gear in a row. I can understand in a group of several vehicles, maybe one or two people don't have recovery gear, which is sad in itself. But to see two people not have recovery gear, both of them have capable four-wheel drive vehicles, is a shame. Don't own a four-wheel drive vehicle and take it to four-wheel drive territory if you don't have recovery gear.